Dr. Sarah Chen opened her eyes to darkness. Her head pounded like a drum. She tried to move but found her hands bound with some kind of energy field that hummed against her skin. The air smelled wrong, too clean, like a hospital that never saw real patients. Where was she? The last thing Sarah remembered was working in the medical bay of the Hippocrates. They were carrying supplies to the frontier colony on Beta 7. Captain Martinez had called an all-hands meeting. Then the ship shook, violently. The lights went out. Someone screamed about Zephyrian ships. Now she lay on a cold metal floor in complete darkness. Sarah sat up slowly. Her ribs ached, but nothing felt broken. She was still wearing her blue medical uniform, though it was torn and dirty. The energy, cuffs around her wrists glowed with a soft purple light. "Hello?" she called out. Her voice echoed in the darkness. No answer. She stood and shuffled forward with small steps. Her hands touched a smooth wall that felt like glass but warmer. She followed it around what seemed to be a small room. No door that she could find, no windows, just four walls and silence. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange without any light. A sound broke the silence. A door opened somewhere, letting in bright white light that hurt her eyes. Sarah squinted and saw three figures enter her cell. The Zephyrians. She had seen them in training videos, but never in person. They looked like people made of living crystal. Their skin was translucent blue-white, and light moved through their bodies like water. The one in front was tall and broad. His face was sharp and angular with no expression she could read. "The human healer," he said in perfect English. His voice had a musical quality like wind chimes. "I am Warden Vex Thera. You are my prisoner." Sarah lifted her chin. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I was traveling on a medical supply ship under interplanetary law. Taking prisoners from medical vessels is against—" "Your laws mean nothing here," Vexithara interrupted. "You are in Zephyrian space now. You will follow our laws." The other two Zephyrians stayed by the door. They carried weapons that looked like glowing spears. "Why am I alive?" Sarah asked. She knew the Zephyrians had a reputation for being fierce warriors. They usually did not take prisoners. "A mistake that will be corrected," Vexithara said coldly. "But first you will serve a purpose." The door opened again. Another Zephyrian entered, smaller than the guards. This one moved differently, more carefully, like someone carrying something precious. In its arms was a child. Sarah's medical training kicked in immediately. The child was clearly sick. Its crystal skin was cloudy and dull. Its breathing was fast and shallow. Even in the strange light, Sarah could see the signs of fever and distress. "My daughter," Vexithara said. His cold tone cracked slightly. "She has the fading sickness. Our healers cannot cure it." Sarah stepped forward without thinking. "Let me look at her." The guards raised their weapons, but Vexithara held up a hand. "Why would we trust a human?" he asked. "Your species is weak. You spend your time fixing broken things instead of becoming strong enough not to break." "Because your daughter is dying," Sarah said simply. "And I might be able to help." Vexithara stared at her for a long moment. The crystal patterns in his face shifted like slow lightning. "Our technology can regenerate cells, it can rebuild organs, it can restore the body completely," he said. "But this sickness, it returns. Every time we cure her, it comes back stronger." Sarah nodded. "That's because you're treating the symptoms, not the cause." "Explain." "Your technology probably works by forcing cells to return to a healthy state," Sarah said. "But if there's an underlying genetic problem, you're just putting a bandage on it. The real issue is still there." She looked at the child again. The cloudy skin, the breathing pattern, the way the child held herself. It reminded Sarah of cases she had seen before. "This isn't a disease," she said. "It's an autoimmune disorder. Her own body is attacking healthy cells. Your regeneration technology is probably making it worse by giving her immune system more targets to attack." Vexithara's eyes flashed. "You claim to understand what our greatest healers cannot?" "I claim to understand a different approach," Sarah said. Human medicine doesn't just force the body to heal. We work with it. We find out why things go wrong and fix the real problem. Prove it. Sarah looked around the sterile cell. I need supplies, basic medical tools, and I need to run some tests first. You ask for much, prisoner. I ask for the chance to save your daughter's life. Vexithara was quiet for a long time. The child in his arms made a small, pained sound that seemed to echo through Sarah's heart. Very well, he said finally. But understand this, human. If you fail, if you hurt her, I will make your death very slow and very painful. Sarah nodded. If I hurt her, I'll deserve it. 2 hours later, Sarah found herself in what the Zephyrians called a healing chamber. It looked nothing like any hospital she had ever seen. Everything was made of the same crystal-like material, and light flowed through the walls in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. She had been given basic medical supplies, a scanner, some simple tools, and access to their medical database. The Zephyrian symbols were hard to read, but she was starting to make sense of their medical records. The child, whose name was Kirathel, lay on a table that seemed to be made of solid light. Sarah ran her scanner over the girl carefully. Interesting, she murmured. What? Vexithara stood nearby, watching every move. Your people are silicon-based, right? Not carbon like humans? Yes. And your regeneration technology works by sending energy patterns through your crystalline structure? Correct, Sarah smiled. I thought so. The problem isn't that your technology is wrong, it's that it's too perfect. She pointed to her scanner. Readings. Your daughter has a genetic variation that makes her crystal structure slightly different. When your regeneration tech tries to fix her, it's trying to make her exactly like everyone else. But her genetics won't let that happen. So her body fights back. How do you propose to fix this? Vexithara asked. I don't fix it, Sarah said. I work with it. Over the next 6 hours, Sarah did something that amazed the Zephyrians. Instead of trying to force Kirathel's body to conform to a standard pattern, she modified the regeneration treatment to work with the child's unique genetics. She used human biochemistry knowledge combined with Zephyrian technology. She created a treatment that supported the child's natural healing while suppressing the autoimmune response. By dawn in the Zephyrian capital, Kirathel was sitting up and playing with toys made of light. Vexithara stared at his daughter in wonder. How? Was all he managed to say. Different doesn't mean broken, Sarah said. Sometimes it just means unique. Word of what the human prisoner had done spread through the military base like wildfire. By afternoon, other Zephyrians were asking quiet questions. Did the human really cure the incurable? Could she help others? Sarah found herself moved from the prison cell to a small room near the medical wing, still a prisoner but no longer forgotten. She did not know it yet, but she had just started something that would change an entire empire. That night, as she lay on a real bed for the first time in months, Sarah looked out a small window at the crystal spires of the Zephyrian city. Somewhere out there, a little girl was sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. It was not freedom, but it was a beginning. Word spread through the Zephyrian capital like light through crystal. The human prisoner had done what their greatest healers could not. She had saved Kirathel from the fading sickness. At first, only whispers traveled through the crystal corridors. Guards talked to other guards. Medical staff shared quiet conversations. Within a week, those whispers reached the highest towers of the capital. Sarah did not know about the whispers. She was kept in her small room near the medical wing. Every day she was allowed to check on Kirathel. The child grew stronger and happier. Her crystal skin glowed bright and clear. She plays now, Vexithara told Sarah one morning. Before, she could barely stand. Sarah smiled as she watched Kirathel chase lights around the medical chamber. That's what healthy children do. They play. Vexithara watched his daughter for a moment. Our healers say you used forbidden methods. I use different methods, Sarah corrected. Sometimes different is what works. They say you treated her like she was broken. I treated her like she was unique. Sarah turned to face him. Your healers tried to make her fit a perfect pattern. I helped her be healthy as herself. Vexithara was quiet for a long time. Other families are asking about you. What kind of asking? The kind that could get me in trouble. 3 days later, Sarah woke to find someone new in her room. A Zephyrian female stood by the window. Her crystal skin was darker than Vexithara's, and she wore robes that marked her as nobility. "I am Commander Thelana," she said without turning around. "I need your help." Sarah sat up in bed. "What's wrong?" "My brother. He came back from the war different. He sees enemies that are not there. He cannot sleep. Our healers try to regenerate his mind, but it makes him worse." Sarah nodded slowly. "Post-traumatic stress. Your regeneration probably resets his memories to the traumatic events over and over. Can you help him?" "Maybe. But I'll need to see him. And I'll need different supplies." Thelana turned to face her. Her eyes held a mixture of hope and shame. "No one must know I came here. If word spreads that I brought my family problems to a human prisoner, your secret is safe." Sarah promised. That night, guards moved Sarah to a different part of the medical wing. Commander Thelana's brother Zektar sat in a corner of a small room. He rocked back and forth, his crystal skin flickering with chaotic light patterns. Sarah approached slowly. "Hello, Zektar. I'm Sarah." He looked up with wide, frightened eyes. "The shadows are moving. They're coming through the walls." "I don't see any shadows," Sarah said gently. "But I believe you do. That must be very scary." For the next 3 hours, Sarah did something the Zephyrian healers had never tried. She simply listened. She let Zektar tell her about the war, about the friends he lost, about the guilt he carried. Then she taught him breathing exercises. Simple human techniques for calming the mind. She showed him how to focus on the present moment instead of painful memories. "Your healers try to erase the trauma," she explained to Thelana. "But trauma isn't just memory. It's how the mind protects itself. You have to heal the whole person, not just change their brain." Within 2 weeks, Zektar was sleeping through the night. The hallucinations stopped. He started eating regularly again. Thelana stared at her brother in amazement. "How is this possible? Our technology is far more advanced than anything humans have." "Technology isn't everything," Sarah said. "Sometimes the old ways work better. Sometimes you need to treat the heart, not just the body." She did not know that Thelana had a friend in the imperial palace, a friend who was married to the emperor's nephew, a friend whose own son had problems that Zephyrian medicine could not fix. 2 months later, Sarah's room had become a secret medical clinic. High-ranking Zephyrians came at night, bringing family members with conditions their healers called impossible or shameful. Sarah treated a general's wife who could not stop her hands from shaking after a shuttle accident. She helped a diplomat's daughter who pulled out her own crystal formations when stressed. She worked with a senator's son who could not speak after witnessing violence. All of them had one thing in common. Zephyrian regeneration technology made their problems worse, not better. "Your people think healing means returning to perfect," Sarah explained to Vexithara one day. "But perfect doesn't exist. Healthy means working with what you have." Vexithara had become something like a friend. He often brought Kirathel to visit Sarah. The child had learned some basic English and loved to show off her new words. "Sarah, friend," Kirathel would call out. "Look how bright I glow today." These visits were the highlights of Sarah's days, but she also felt the weight of her situation growing heavier. She was saving lives, but she was still a prisoner. She was helping families, but she could not contact her own. "How many others survived from my ship?" she asked Vexithara one day. His expression darkened. "That is not a question I can answer. Are they alive? Some. Are they prisoners too? Sarah, please, do not ask what I cannot tell you." Late one night, Sarah was working with a young Zephyrian who had developed seizures after exposure to certain light frequencies. As she adjusted the medical equipment, she heard voices in the hallway. "The Emperor's grandson," someone whispered. "The condition is getting worse. The physicians don't know what to do." The regeneration chambers aren't working. Maybe we should ask the human. Sarah's hands stopped moving. The Emperor's grandson. If she helped him, everything would change. There would be no more hiding who she was or what she could do, but it would also mean stepping into the center of Zephyrian politics. And Sarah was learning that Zephyrian politics could be deadly. The young Zephyrian opened his eyes. "Dr. Sarah, are you okay?" She smiled at him. "I'm fine. Let's focus on getting you better." But as she worked, Sarah's mind raced. She had spent months healing Zephyrians in secret. She had earned respect from individuals, but she was still seen as inferior by their society. Soon, she might have to prove herself in front of the entire empire. The thought terrified her, but it also excited her. Because Sarah knew something the Zephyrians did not yet understand. Their advanced technology had made them forget the most important part of healing: the heart. And if she could teach that to an empire, maybe she could change everything. That night, Sarah stared out her window at the Crystal City. Somewhere out there, the Emperor's grandson was suffering from something Zephyrian medicine could not cure. Soon, she might be the only hope he had. The question was, would the Empire swallow its pride enough to let her try? The summons came at dawn. Sarah woke to find Warden Vexathera standing in her room with 2 Imperial guards in golden crystal armor. "You will come with us," Vexathera said. His voice was formal, but Sarah could see worry in his crystal features. "Where are we going?" "To the Imperial Palace. The Emperor commands your presence." Sarah's stomach tightened. "Is this about his grandson?" Vexathera nodded. "Prepare yourself, Sarah. You are about to meet the most powerful being in the galaxy." The journey to the palace took an hour by flying transport. Sarah had never seen the capital from above before. Crystal towers reached toward the sky like frozen lightning. Light moved through them in patterns that told stories she could not read. The Imperial Palace was the largest structure Sarah had ever seen. Its walls were made of pure white crystal that seemed to glow from within. As they landed, she saw hundreds of Zephyrians moving through gardens of living light. Inside, the palace was even more impressive. Corridors wide enough for armies led to chambers that could hold entire human cities. Everything was beautiful, perfect, and cold. They stopped at massive doors that opened without sound. Beyond them was a throne room that took Sarah's breath away. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into bright mist. The Emperor sat on a throne made of what looked like captured starlight. But Sarah's eyes were drawn to the small figure lying on a bed beside the throne, the Emperor's grandson. The child looked terrible. His crystal skin was covered in dark cracks. His breathing was labored. Even from a distance, Sarah could see he was dying. "Human healer." The Emperor's voice echoed through the chamber. "Approach." Sarah walked forward, feeling hundreds of eyes watching her. The Imperial court stood in silent ranks along the walls. Their faces showed mixtures of curiosity, disgust, and desperate hope. "Your Majesty," Sarah said with a small bow. She had no idea how to address a crystal emperor, but politeness was always safe. "You have caused quite a disturbance in my empire," the Emperor said. "My people whisper about the human who performs miracles." "I don't perform miracles," Sarah replied. "I just use different methods." "Look at my grandson," the Emperor commanded. "Tell me what you see." Sarah approached the child's bed. The boy was maybe 8 years old in human terms. His skin was cracked like broken glass. Light flickered weakly through his crystal structure. "May I examine him?" Sarah asked. The Emperor nodded. Sarah ran her hands over the child without touching. She studied his breathing, the pattern of cracks in his skin, the way he moved in his sleep. "What's his name?" she asked. "Prince Veloth," the Emperor said. "He is my heir's son. He is the future of our dynasty." "How long has he been like this?" 6 months. Our greatest healers have tried everything. The regeneration chambers make him worse." Sarah stood and turned to face the Emperor. The entire court held its breath. "Your Majesty, this isn't a physical illness." The Emperor's eyes flashed with anger. "Explain." Prince Veloth is under enormous pressure. Everyone expects him to be perfect, to carry the future of your dynasty. But he's just a child. Murmurs ran through the court. Some sounded angry, others shocked. His body is rejecting the stress, Sarah continued. The cracks in his skin represent the cracks in his spirit. Every time you try to regenerate him, you're forcing him to be perfect again. But perfection is what's killing him. You dare suggest that our empire's expectations are harmful? An advisor hissed. I suggest that children need to be children, Sarah said firmly. Not symbols or tools or extensions of their parents' ambitions. The emperor stood. Light blazed through his crystal form. For a moment, Sarah thought he might order her execution. Instead, he sat back down. What do you propose? Let me work with him. Not just his body, but his mind. Teach him that it's okay to be imperfect. Give him time to play, to learn, to just be a child. This is madness, another advisor muttered. Then why, the emperor asked slowly, has every other treatment failed? Sarah was given a room next to Prince Veloth's chambers. For the next 2 weeks, she did something that scandalized the court. She treated the prince like a normal child. She read him stories. She taught him simple human games. She showed him how to draw pictures instead of always practicing crystal light formations. Most importantly, she listened. The boy told her about the fear of disappointing everyone, about the lessons that never ended, about how lonely it was to be perfect. Sometimes I wish I could just run in the gardens, Veloth told her one day. But princes don't run. We walk with dignity. Says who? Sarah asked. Everyone. Well, I think princes should run if they want to. Want to try? They spent that afternoon running through the palace gardens. Veloth laughed for the first time in months. By evening, several cracks in his skin had started to heal, but someone else had been watching. A young court physician named Kethvar had seen everything. That night, he came to Sarah's room. I want to learn, he said without introduction. Sarah looked up from her medical notes. Learn what? What you do, how you heal without breaking. How you treat the whole being, not just the body. Sarah studied him carefully. Kethvar was younger than most court physicians. His crystal skin held curious patterns she had not seen before. Why? Because I have seen you cure conditions that have stumped our greatest minds. Because you treat my people with kindness instead of just duty. Because I think we have forgotten something important about healing. Teaching you could get us both in trouble. I know. Sarah made a decision that would change everything. Okay, but we do this secretly. Meet me in the medical archives after midnight. For the next month, Sarah taught Kethvar everything she could. Not just human medical techniques, but human medical philosophy. She showed him how to listen to patients, not just scan them. How to treat emotions, not just symptoms. Kethvar was a fast learner. He had access to Zephyrian technology Sarah had never seen. Together they developed new treatments that combined human insight with Zephyrian tools. Prince Veloth continued to improve. The cracks in his skin faded. He played with other children. He laughed and learned and slowly became healthy. But their secret lessons were discovered. A factory accident in the lower city injured dozens of workers. Poison gas had leaked from damaged equipment. Traditional Zephyrian medicine could not counteract the complex chemical damage. Kethvar had been assigned to the emergency response. Using Sarah's techniques, he saved 17 workers who had been declared beyond help. The success was reported to the court. Questions were asked. How had a young physician succeeded where experienced healers had failed? The investigation led straight back to Sarah. Soon, palace guards were escorting both Sarah and Kethvar to the throne room. This time, the emperor did not look pleased. You have exceeded your authority, human, the emperor said coldly. You were brought here to heal my grandson, not to corrupt our medical practices. I healed your grandson because I changed how he was treated, Sarah replied. Kethvar saved those workers the same way. You have spread dangerous ideas through my court. You make my people question our superiority. I make them question whether superior always means better. The Emperor rose from his throne. Light blazed through him like a storm. Take them to the detention levels. I will decide their fate tomorrow. As guards led them away, Sarah saw Prince Veloth watching from the shadows. The boy's crystal skin glowed bright and healthy, but his eyes were filled with fear. In the detention cell, Kethvar paced nervously. I am sorry I brought this upon you. You saved people's lives, Sarah said. Never apologize for that. What will happen to us? Sarah leaned against the crystal wall. Through a small window, she could see smoke rising from the outer colonies. Ships were arriving with urgent messages. Something was wrong beyond the palace walls. I don't know, she admitted, but I have a feeling the Empire has bigger problems than us right now. She was right. By morning, news would reach the palace that would change everything. A plague had broken out in the outer colonies. A disease that killed Zephyrians by the thousands. A disease their technology could not stop. And once again, the Empire would need the human prisoner they had just locked away. The alarms began before dawn. Sarah woke to the sound of crystal chimes echoing through the detention center. Red light pulsed through the walls in patterns she had learned meant emergency. Kethvar stood by the small window, his crystal skin flickering with worry. Something is very wrong. Guards rushed past their cell without stopping. Voices shouted in the corridors. Ships roared overhead, more than Sarah had ever heard at once. What do you think it is? Sarah asked. Before Kethvar could answer, the cell door opened. Warden Vexithera entered with 2 guards. His usual calm expression was gone. You will come with me, he said to Sarah. Both of you. Where are we going? To see what your empire calls justice, he said bitterly. They were escorted through corridors filled with running officials and panicked staff. The grand throne room was now a command center. Screens of light showed star maps, ship locations, and medical reports that made no sense to Sarah. The Emperor stood at the center of it all. His crystal form blazed with anger and fear. Around him, advisors argued in loud voices. Your Majesty, an admiral reported. Colony Beta 9 has gone silent. Colony Alpha 7 is requesting immediate evacuation. The plague spreads faster than we can track it. What of our medical ships? The Emperor demanded. Useless. The regeneration chambers cannot fight this disease. It grows stronger with each attempt to cure it. The Emperor's gaze fell on Sarah. Bring the human forward. Sarah was pushed to the front of the room. Screens around her showed images that made her stomach turn. Zephyrian colonies in ruins. Crystal cities where no lights moved. Ships drifting dead in space. Explain this, the Emperor commanded, pointing to a medical report. Sarah studied the data. Her training kicked in automatically. It's a biological plague, carbon-based, not silicon. It attacks the connection points where your crystal structure meets your organic systems. Our healers say it cannot exist. Silicon and carbon do not interact this way. They're wrong. Sarah pointed to specific readings. This organism has evolved specifically to target Zephyrians. Someone engineered it. The room fell silent. Biowarfare, an advisor whispered. But who would dare? That doesn't matter now, Sarah said. What matters is stopping it. Your regeneration technology makes it stronger because you're trying to force your bodies to regenerate faster than the plague can. Evolve. But that just teaches it to adapt. The Emperor stared at her. Can you stop it? I can try. But I'll need a team, resources, and I'll need to go to the infected colonies. Impossible, another advisor snapped. You are a prisoner. We cannot trust. You cannot trust me? Sarah's voice rose. Your people are dying by the millions and you're worried about trust? The Emperor held up a hand for silence. What do you require? Medical supplies, a team of physicians willing to learn new methods, access to your research facilities, and Kethvar. He understands both our approaches. The Emperor looked at Kethvar. You would work with this human? Yes, Your Majesty. I have seen what her methods can achieve. Very well. But understand this. The Emperor's voice turned cold. You will be watched. Any sign of betrayal, any attempt to escape, and you will both die slowly. 3 hours later, Sarah found herself on a medical ship heading for the outer colonies. She had been given a team of Zephyrian physicians, but she could feel their hostility. They obeyed orders but made it clear they thought this was madness. Only Kethvar seemed eager to work with her. He helped her study the plague samples and plan their approach. "The others do not trust you," he told her quietly. "I know. But they'll have to if they want to live." Their first stop was Colony Delta 5. From space it looked normal. But as they landed, Sarah saw the truth. The crystal cities were dark. No lights moved through the structures. The air itself felt dead. The medical team set up in what had been the main hospital. Bodies lay everywhere. Zephyrians who had died despite all their advanced technology. Sarah began her work immediately. She took samples, studied the plague's behavior, and tested different treatments. What she found horrified her. "It's learning," she told the team. "Every time you try to regenerate someone, the plague studies the process. It becomes better at defeating it." Dr. Velnara, the head of the team, looked at her with disgust. "You expect us to believe a mindless virus can learn?" "Not mindless. Designed. Someone made this specifically to kill Zephyrians." She showed them her findings. The plague was incredibly sophisticated. It adapted to whatever treatment was used against it. The more advanced the treatment, the faster it evolved. "Your regeneration technology is feeding it information," Sarah explained. "Every healing attempt teaches it new ways to attack." "Then what do you suggest?" Dr. Velnara asked coldly. "We stop trying to regenerate. We use simpler methods. We help the body fight naturally instead of forcing it to heal." The Zephyrian doctors were insulted. "You want us to use primitive medicine? I want you to use medicine that works." The argument continued for hours. Meanwhile, more ships arrived with more sick and dying Zephyrians. The plague continued to spread. Finally, Dr. Velnara made a decision. "We will try your methods on a small group. But if anyone dies because of your primitive techniques, they're already dying from your advanced ones," Sarah pointed out. For the next week, Sarah and Kethvar worked around the clock. They treated patients with careful combinations of human, medicine, and simple Zephyrian technology. They avoided the complex regeneration chambers entirely. The results were amazing. Patients who had been dying began to recover. The plague could not adapt to the simpler treatments because there was less for it to learn from. But not everyone was happy with their success. "She makes us look like fools," Sarah heard one doctor mutter. "A human prisoner saving lives we could not." "Maybe she caused this plague herself," another suggested. "Maybe all humans are involved." The whispers grew louder. Some physicians began to refuse her orders. Others sabotaged treatments when she was not watching. One night Sarah was working late in the medical lab when she heard a noise behind her. She turned to find 3 Zephyrian doctors standing in the doorway. Their crystal faces were twisted with anger. "You have humiliated us enough," Dr. Velnara said. "I've saved hundreds of lives. You've made us look incompetent in front of our own people. Your pride is more important than your patients' lives." Dr. Velnara stepped closer. "You are nothing but a human prisoner. You have no right to—" Alarms suddenly blared through the building. Red lights flashed. Over the speakers, a panicked voice announced, "Emergency. Colony Beta 3 has lost all contact. Colony Alpha 12 is requesting immediate evacuation. The plague has mutated. It's spreading faster than ever." Sarah pushed past the angry doctors and ran to the communication center. The screens showed a nightmare. Entire colonies were going dark in real time. The plague was now spreading between colonies instantly, as if it could jump through space itself. "How is this possible?" someone whispered. Sarah studied the data with growing horror. "It's not just biological anymore. It's learned to use your energy networks. The light patterns that connect your cities are carrying the plague." The room fell silent. "If this reaches the capital," Kethvar started. "Millions will die," Sarah finished. "Maybe billions. Dr. Velnara stared at the screens. What do we do? Sarah looked around the room at the Zephyrian doctors who had been trying to discredit her moments before. Now they were all looking to her for answers. We stop running from this thing, she said firmly. We go to the source. We find where it started and we end it there. That could be anywhere. No. Sarah pointed to the star map. Look at the pattern, the first outbreaks. They form a line. The plague is moving outward from a single point. She traced the path on the map. It led to a system at the edge of Zephyrian space, a system that had been abandoned for decades. There, she said. That's where someone unleashed this plague. That's where we'll find our answers. The Emperor's voice suddenly crackled through the communicator. Dr. Chen, you will return to the capital immediately. Your Majesty, I need to investigate the source. You will return. That is an order. The connection cut off. Sarah looked at Kethvar. He's scared. He wants to pull back and defend the core worlds. Will that work? Sarah studied the plague's spread pattern. No. This thing will reach the capital within days. Running won't save them. She made a decision that would change everything. Gather the medical team, all of them. Sarah, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that sometimes you have to disobey orders to save lives. We're going to that abandoned system, with or without permission. Dr. Velnara stepped forward. I will come with you. You hate me. Yes. But I hate watching my people die more. One by one, the other doctors stepped forward. Even those who had opposed her agreed to join the mission. Sarah felt a mixture of hope and fear. They were about to disobey the Emperor. They were flying into the unknown. They might all die, but they were also about to uncover the truth behind the plague. And maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to stop it. As their ship left the dying colony behind, Sarah stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone had created a weapon designed to destroy an entire species. Soon she would come face to face with them, and she would show them that human medicine was about more than just healing. Sometimes it was about fighting back. The abandoned system held secrets that made Sarah's blood run cold. Ancient Zephyrian research stations floated dead in space, their crystal hulls cracked and dark. But one station still showed signs of life. Life signs detected, Kethvar reported from the ship's scanner. But they're not Zephyrian. Sarah studied the readings. Carbon-based human signatures. Dr. Velnara's crystal skin flashed with anger. Humans created this plague? Let's find out. Their ship docked with the research station. The airlock opened with a hiss of stale air. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through the corridors. Signs in both Zephyrian and English pointed toward the main laboratory. The team moved carefully through the station. Bodies lay scattered in the hallways, both human and Zephyrian scientists who had died years ago. But the laboratory ahead was fully operational. Sarah pushed open the doors and gasped. Dr. Marcus Webb stood with his back to them, working at a complex control panel. Sarah recognized him from medical conferences. He had been declared a war criminal 5 years ago for illegal biological experiments. Dr. Webb, Sarah called out. He turned slowly, smiling. Dr. Sarah Chen, I wondered when you would find me. You did this. You created the plague. I created a masterpiece, Webb said proudly. A biological weapon that targets a specific species with perfect precision. The Zephyrians thought they were superior. I showed them how wrong they were. Dr. Velnara stepped forward, her hand on her weapon. You murdered billions of my people. Webb laughed. Your people murdered billions of mine first. This is justice. Sarah felt sick. This isn't justice, this is genocide. The Zephyrians invaded human space, they enslaved your ship. They think we're inferior insects. I simply proved them wrong. By becoming a monster yourself? Webb's smile faded. By using their own strength against them. Their regeneration technology made them vulnerable. Every time they try to heal, my creation learns. Get stronger. Soon it will reach their home world and finish what I started. Kethvar spoke quietly. The plague learns from our medicine. That's why simple treatments work better. Exactly, Webb said excitedly. The more complex the healing attempt, the smarter my plague becomes. I designed it to evolve specifically against Zephyrian technology. Sarah stared at the control panels around the laboratory. Screens showed the plague spread across the galaxy in real time. Millions of points of light going dark as colonies fell. You can stop this, she said. You must have a cure. Webb shook his head. No cure. Only prevention. The plague dies if its host species dies. That's not prevention, that's extinction. Sometimes extinction is necessary for evolution. Dr. Velnara raised her weapon. I should kill you now. Wait, Sarah said. She approached Webb slowly. You're dying. It was true. Webb's skin was pale and covered in sweat. His hands shook as he worked. The plague, Webb admitted. It mutated beyond my control. Started attacking humans too. Seems I'm not as smart as I thought. Then help us stop it. Make this right. Webb laughed bitterly. Too late. The final phase starts in 6 hours. The plague will spread through the Zephyrian light networks directly to their capital. Your precious empire will fall. Sarah grabbed his arm. There has to be a way. Maybe, Webb said with a cruel smile. But I'll never tell you. I'd rather die watching their world burn. Dr. Velnara's weapon charged with deadly light. Then die. No! Sarah stepped between them. This won't help anyone. He deserves death for what he's done. Yes, he does. But we deserve a chance to save our peoples. Both of them. Sarah turned back to Webb. You said prevention. What kind of prevention? Webb was getting weaker. Blood ran from his nose. Doesn't matter. You could never do it. Try me. He pointed at a massive device in the center of the lab. Electromagnetic pulse. Targeted frequency. It could disrupt the plague's genetic markers, but you'd need to broadcast it through the entire Zephyrian light network. That would shut down every system in the Empire, Kethvar said. For weeks, Webb agreed. No power, no communications, no life support systems. Millions would die anyway. Sarah studied the device. It was incredibly complex, but the theory was sound. An EMP tuned to the plague's specific frequency could destroy it at the molecular level. There's another way, she said slowly. Impossible. Not impossible, just dangerous. Sarah turned to her team. We don't broadcast through their network. We broadcast from here, through space, directly to every infected colony. Dr. Velnara shook her head. The power required would be enormous. This station would be destroyed, and anyone on it, Webb added with satisfaction. Sarah looked at each member of her team, Kethvar, Dr. Velnara, and 6 other Zephyrian physicians who had risked their careers to follow her. You don't have to stay, she told them. Take the ship, return to the capital. Tell them what we found. Kethvar stepped forward. I stay with you. This is suicide. You taught me that healing sometimes requires sacrifice, that the needs of many outweigh the needs of few. Dr. Velnara lowered her weapon. I also stay. You saved my people. Now I will help save yours. One by one, each doctor stepped forward. They had come here as enemies, united only by necessity. Now they stood together as healers, ready to give their lives to save both their species. Webb stared at them in shock. You're all insane. Humans and Zephyrians working together? It's against nature. No, Sarah said firmly. Hatred is against nature. Genocide is against nature. Healing brings life together. For the next 5 hours, they worked frantically to modify the EMP device. Sarah combined her knowledge of the plague with Zephyrian engineering skills. They had to recalibrate the frequency generators, reroute power systems, and create a broadcast array powerful enough to reach every corner of the Empire. With 1 hour left, Webb died, cursing them all. Sarah felt no satisfaction in his death, only sadness for what hatred had driven him to become. The device is ready, Kethvar reported. But the power surge will overload the station's core. We have perhaps 10 minutes after activation. Sarah looked out through the laboratory windows at the stars. Somewhere out there, the plague was spreading toward the Zephyrian capital. Her fellow humans were still prisoners of war. Billions of lives hung in the balance. Any regrets? She asked her team. Dr. Velnara smiled. The first genuine smile Sarah had seen from her. Only that I waited so long to trust you. Sarah activated the device. The station shook as power surged through every system. The EMP broadcasted outward at the speed of light, racing toward the infected colonies. On the screens, they watched as the plague signatures began to fade. Colony after colony showed green lights. The plague was dying, but the station was dying too. Explosions echoed through the corridors. The air grew thin as life support failed. The escape pods are destroyed. Someone reported. Sarah felt strangely calm. They had done it. They had saved two civilizations that had been at war. Human medicine and Zephyrian technology, working together, had defeated hatred itself. Kethvar took her hand. It was an honor to learn from you, Dr. Chen. The honor was mine. The lights went out. The station shuddered as its core began to collapse. Then, through the darkness, new lights appeared. Ships, dozens of them. Both human and Zephyrian vessels working together to rescue the medical team. As Sarah was pulled aboard a rescue ship, she saw something that made her cry. On the communication screens, the Emperor and a human admiral stood side by side, coordinating the rescue operation. The plague had forced their species to work together. And in working together, they had found something more powerful than hatred. They had found hope. Dr. Chen, the ship's captain said as they flew toward safety. Both governments want to thank you. You've been pardoned for all crimes. You're free to go anywhere you choose. Sarah looked back at the dying research station, at the place where enemies had become friends, where hatred had been transformed into healing. I want to build something, she said. What kind of something? Sarah smiled. A school, where humans and Zephyrians can learn medicine together, where different doesn't mean enemy. That sounds like a fine idea, Doctor. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, Sarah thought about everything that had happened. She had started as a prisoner. Now she was free. But more than that, she was a teacher. And what she had taught and learned would change the galaxy forever. The war between humans and Zephyrians was ending, and in its place something beautiful was beginning to grow. 5 years later, Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Interspecies Medical Academy. Through the crystal windows, she could see human and Zephyrian students walking together through gardens that bloomed with both earthly flowers and crystal formations. The academy floated in neutral space exactly halfway between human and Zephyrian territory. It had become a symbol of something many thought impossible. Two species learning from each other instead of fighting. Dr. Chen, a voice said behind her. Sarah turned to see Kethvar approaching. He now wore the robes of a senior instructor, and his crystal skin bore the honorable scars of their work together. How are today's graduates? Sarah asked. Ready to change the galaxy. Kethvar smiled. Human students who understand crystal biology. Zephyrian students who treat emotions as seriously as physical symptoms. They will be healers like no generation before. Sarah nodded with satisfaction. The academy had graduated over 1,000 medical professionals in 5 years. They worked in hospitals across both empires, bringing new approaches to old problems. A chime sounded through the academy. Incoming vessel, the announcement said. Imperial transport requesting permission to dock. Sarah and Kethvar exchanged glances. They were expecting someone important today, but they had not been told who. 20 minutes later, they stood in the academy's main hall. The doors opened, and Sarah gasped. The Emperor himself entered, followed by President Martinez of the Human Federation. Behind them walked a group that included Admiral Thompson, Warden Vex Ithara, and his daughter Kirathel. Kirathel, now 13, ran forward and hugged Sarah tightly. Sarah, friend, you look well. Kira, look how you've grown. Sarah hugged the girl back, remembering the sick child she had first met in a prison cell. The Emperor approached with measured steps. His crystal form had changed over the years. Where once his light burned with anger and pride, now it held a calmer glow. "Dr. Chen," he said formally, then surprised everyone by bowing slightly. "I come to honor a promise made long ago." "President," Martinez stepped forward. "Dr. Chen, both our governments have agreed. You are being awarded the Galactic Medal of Peace, the highest honor our species can give." "I don't understand," Sarah said. "I was just doing my job." "Your job saved 2 civilizations," the Emperor said. "But more than that, you changed how we see each other, how we see healing itself." Warden Vexathera stepped forward. "Sarah, you did something I thought impossible. You made enemies into friends, you turned a prison into a school." "You all did that," Sarah protested. I just treated patients." "You treated us like people," Kethavar said. "Not like aliens, not like enemies, like people who needed help." The ceremony was beautiful. Human and Zephyrian officials read speeches about cooperation and unity. Students from both species sang songs in each other's languages. Sarah accepted her medal, but her mind was elsewhere. After the ceremony, she found herself alone with the Emperor on the observation deck. "You seem troubled," he observed. "5 years ago, I was your prisoner," Sarah said. "You could have killed me. Instead, you let me heal your grandson. You healed more than my grandson, you healed my understanding." Sarah looked out at the stars. "There's still so much hatred, so much fear between our peoples." "Yes," the Emperor agreed, "but there is also hope. Your students carry that hope to every corner of our empires." He paused, then continued. "I have a confession to make. When I first brought you to treat Prince Velith, I did not believe you could help. I thought human medicine was primitive, useless. What changed your mind? You did. Not just your skills, but your approach. You saw my grandson as a child, not as a symbol. You treated him like he mattered as a person, not just as a future ruler." Sarah smiled. "How is he now?" "Veloth is studying at your academy. He wants to be a healer like you." "I'm honored." The Emperor turned to face her fully. "Sarah Chen, I have one more request. Will you serve as the Academy's permanent director? Both governments have agreed to support this position." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "I never wanted power. I just wanted to heal people. And that is exactly why you should have it. You understand that true leadership is about service, not dominion." That evening, Sarah walked through the Academy's halls. In one classroom, human students practiced crystal light therapy under the guidance of a Zephyrian instructor. In another, Zephyrian students learned about emotional healing from a human professor. She stopped at the Academy's memorial wall. Names were etched in both human writing and Zephyrian crystal script. Dr. Velnara, who had died fighting the plague. The 6 other Zephyrian physicians who had sacrificed their lives with her at the research station. Even Dr. Marcus Webb's name was there with the words, "Forgiven but not forgotten," beneath it. Kethvar found her there. "Regrets?" he asked. "No regrets," Sarah said. "Just wonder. How did we get here from where we started? One patient at a time. One life at a time. One choice to heal instead of harm." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "Sarah," Kethvar said finally, "I have been thinking about something you said years ago. You said that healing brings life together. I remember. I understand now. Healing is not just about medicine. It is about connection, about seeing past differences to find what is the same." Sarah nodded. "Every patient teaches us something. Every life we save saves a little piece of ourselves too." The next morning brought a new class of students. Sarah stood before them, 50 young humans and Zephyrians who had chosen to learn together. "Welcome to the Academy," she began. "You come from different worlds, different species, different ways of thinking. Some of you may wonder if you can truly understand each other." She paused, looking at their eager faces. "I am here to tell you that understanding begins with caring. Medicine is not about technology, though technology helps. It is not about knowledge. Though knowledge is important, medicine is about one, being helping another to heal. A young human raised her hand. Dr. Chen, is it true you were once a prisoner here? Sarah smiled. Yes, I was. I was captured, imprisoned, and forced to work against my will. The students looked uncomfortable, but I learned something important during that time. Sometimes the greatest prisons are the ones we build in our own minds. Prejudice, fear, the belief that different means enemy. She gestured to the mixed group before her. You represent freedom from those prisons. You are proof that different species can work together, learn together, heal together. You are the future of medicine in our galaxy. A Zephyrian student spoke up. What is the most important thing we should learn here? Sarah thought carefully. Learn to listen. Every patient has a story. Every condition has a cause. Every person has value. When you truly listen, with your mind, your heart, and your skills, you will find that healing becomes something more than just fixing what is broken. She walked among the students as she spoke. You will face challenges. You will see death and suffering. There will be times when all your knowledge and technology cannot save someone. But remember this, even when we cannot cure, we can care. Even when we cannot save, we can comfort. Even when we cannot fix everything, we can always choose compassion. As the class ended and students filed out, chatting excitedly in both human and Zephyrian languages, Sarah felt a deep satisfaction. She had started as a prisoner. She had become a healer. Now she was a teacher. But more than any of those titles, she was something simpler and more important. She was a bridge between worlds, a living example that enemies could become friends, that fear could become understanding, and that the greatest healing came not from technology or medicine alone, but from the simple act of caring about each other. The academy would continue to grow. Students would become teachers. Teachers would become leaders. And somewhere in the galaxy, in hospitals and clinics on 100 worlds, human and Zephyrian healers would work side by side, all because one human prisoner had refused to let hatred win. Sarah looked out at the stars one more time, then headed to her next class. There was work to do. There always was, and she wouldn't have it any other way. The end years later, historians would mark the establishment of the Interspecies Medical Academy as the turning point that ended the human-Zephyrian conflict. But those who knew Sarah Chen understood that the real turning point had happened much earlier, in a prison cell, when one human decided that healing mattered more than hatred. Her legacy lived on in every doctor who chose to care, every patient who was seen as a person rather than a problem, and every being who learned that strength came not from conquest, but from compassion.